They're gone. Permanently. Loren and Alexei, Elizabeth and Andrei, two of the most recognizable couples in 90-Day Fiancé history, not just written out, but scrubbed from the franchise entirely. No warning, no fade-out exit interviews. TLC made the call, dropped the axe, and walked away from four of its longest-running spotlight names, all after a single episode that spiraled so far off script, producers now admit they don't know how to recover. What happened during the taping of Season 9, Episode 23 wasn't normal drama. It wasn't a fight, a walk-off, or even one of those now-routine tell-all scream fests that get clipped into memes. This crossed a line, a real one. Crew members who've spent years on set told insiders there's never been anything as unstable as what went down that day. Cameras caught it. Security stepped in. Legal departments had to mobilize before footage was even reviewed fully. And then came the fallout. Quick, quiet, final. TLC banned them all, blacklisted any future reunion invites or spin-off opportunities, and started pulling them from promos mid-season. But this wasn't about one fight. That's what everyone thinks at first. A heated moment or a messy squabble caught on tape. It wasn't. This was the detonation point of months, maybe years, of tension quietly building behind the curtain. Cast exhaustion, storyline pressure, social media backlash that never backed off, production choices that blurred the line between chaotic and cruel. And when it cracked, it didn't just affect the four cast members involved. It triggered a complete internal crisis at TLC. Rewrites, NDA enforcements, camera crew walking off set. Some reportedly shaken. And the raw footage, locked down in hours, never to see daylight again. The worst part? What made it to air barely scratched the surface. The moment that sent two couples packing was just the tip. The real collapse happened backstage, long after the yelling stopped. After the tears, the broken lights, the screaming, when legal teams started drafting emergency documents, when producers who had known some of these cast members for nearly a decade realized they couldn't edit themselves out of this one. What happened off-camera might be more disturbing than what made it to air. They were supposed to be the unshakables. Loren and Alexei, once the golden couple of the 90-Day universe, had the kind of love story that made early fans feel like the show still had hearts behind the hashtags. From their debut in Season 3 to their appearances in Happily Ever After and their own spin-off, their charm came from being ordinary, honest, a little messy, but grounded. Alexei was the cool-headed, kind Israeli husband who always seemed ready to play peacemaker. Loren, she was fast-talking, emotional, but deeply committed to her family. TLC leaned into that hard, especially after their babies arrived. They became brandable, safe, reliable. And then came Elizabeth and Andrei, the fire to Loren and Alexei's calm water. When Libby and Andrei stormed onto the scene in Season 5, it was obvious very early that they weren't just here for love. They came with opinions, egos, and a family dynamic that was almost too easy to mine for storylines. Volatile relationships, alpha battles, elder sibling rivalries. Libby's family was split from day one, and Andrei never played politically safe. Where Alexei stayed centered, Andrei stayed ready for war. Every formal dinner, every wedding episode, every passive-aggressive comment from Libby's brother, Charlie, added fuel. They brought chaos, and chaos delivered views. For a while, both couples filled very different roles in the TLC machine, but fans locked in with them year after year. Spin-offs, side episodes, tell-alls, pillow talk breakdowns. The audience watched them transition into parenthood, move into new homes, argue about filtered Instagram posts and extended family boundaries. For years, it worked, until the tone started to change. The comment sections, once glowing with compliments and baby name suggestions, turned darker. Some longtime fans started noticing manipulative patterns. Loren's vulnerability, once seen as relatable, became subject to constant criticism. Why is she always crying? Why is Alexei always walking on eggshells? Every on-screen argument seemed to be shadowed by tension that didn't feel scripted anymore. There was visible hesitation in Alexei's eyes during certain scenes. His patience turned tight-lipped. Loren seemed to fluctuate between explosive emotion and blank stares. Fatigue had set in, not just physically, but emotionally. Elizabeth and Andrei were already teetering. By Season 9, the viewer mood around them had curdled completely. What used to be seen as strong personality clashes began reading like aggression. The fiery banter that once made Andrei a fan-favorite villain started feeling unbearable. Viewers weren't watching to see what he'd do next. They were watching to see if TLC would ever hold him accountable. The infamous family blowouts, the yelling matches at birthday parties, the marriage power struggles. It started to lose its charm. Comments started hitting harder. Toxic. Gaslighting. This isn't entertaining anymore. And then came the backlash about parenting choices. Those never stay quiet for long. Across Reddit, Instagram pages, and 90-day memes accounts, followers kept pointing out that both couples seemed off, like the act was slipping, or maybe there was no act left. Loren's smiling rage when asked about her family boundaries, Alexei's silence during conversations about moving, Libby's shift from fiery to checked out, Andrei's baseline energy going from intense to outright irritable. They didn't feel like cast members anymore. They felt like people stuck playing out a storyline that hit its expiration date 2 seasons ago. Still, TLC kept pulling them in, tighter, harder, more screen time, more pressure to deliver drama, more confrontational confessionals. Viewers started noticing that small arguments were getting drawn out over multiple segments, as if production was squeezing every drop of tension out of each moment. Reportedly, there were reshoots, pushes for things to be more reactive. Not enough to call it fake, just enough to feel exaggerated. The audience felt it. So did the cast. Fatigue started living in their faces. And on their faces. By the 3rd quarter of season 9, Loren was visibly struggling. Shadows under her eyes, a kind of consistent panic in her voice. Even moments that should have felt light, like a beach day with her kids, carried this low haze of anxiety. And Alexei wasn't hiding it anymore. He wasn't smiling through it. He started shutting it down. Flat comments, withdrawn expressions. At one point, he said directly on camera, "This is too much." No dramatics, just a statement. Elizabeth was spiraling in another way. Her dynamic with Andrei changed subtly but unmistakably. There were fewer couple jokes, less flirting. When they were on camera together, things felt transactional. She was defending him more, but not with her heart, with her teeth. Every scene felt like they were fighting someone, even if no one said anything. Friends, family, producers, everyone was a problem. And Andrei? His fuse was paper thin. He wasn't being playful anymore. He was fighting to win. Comments exploded during this stretch of episodes. Some fans started tagging TLC directly, accusing production of pushing emotional breakdowns for content. Viewers wondered if cast counseling had ever been offered. Others said it was too late. These 4 had been put on reality TV autopilot, and no one was steering anymore. And through all of that, TLC stayed quiet. No acknowledgements, no social media fanfare posts for these couples. Then the teaser for episode 23 dropped, and things started to buzz. Insiders started leaking strange comments that something serious happened during filming, that a reunion might be canceled or cut. Speculation spread like wildfire. Had someone finally snapped on camera? Did production catch something too raw to air without blowback? Or was it all staged? One final push to reclaim the ratings dip. But what no one saw coming was how fast it would all crash. 4 cast members with years of screen time between them, 2 families deeply woven into the structure of the show. Gone. Literally. Gone. Within a single week of shooting. The season hadn't even finished airing when contracts were pulled. All planned promotion halted. Socials went quiet. TLC issued silence like a warning signal. And that's because what happened next wasn't planned. There was no recovery timeline, no PR safe zone. Nothing had been choreographed for disaster. This wasn't performance. It was collapse. Sudden, undeniable, messy. But no one, not even TLC, was ready for what happened in episode 23. It started long before the cameras rolled that morning. According to insiders, Andrei had already shown up irritated. Not animated, not energized like during his usual segments, irritated. He was pacing around the crew staging area while mic techs waited quietly nearby. Something about Alexei had been bothering him for weeks, and today he wasn't hiding it. Crew members overheard more than one pointed statement. "I'm done letting him look like the good guy," he muttered, low but loud enough for someone to catch it. A producer reportedly asked him quietly to keep it productive, but he dismissed the comment, waving it off. The tension was in the air long before the cameras grabbed it. In a separate trailer, Loren sat quietly, barely speaking. Makeup artists said her hands were visibly shaking while getting ready. She wasn't saying much, but when she did, it was clipped. anxious. She allegedly told her stylist, "I shouldn't even be doing this," more than once. The thing was, no one seemed too surprised. Everyone knew this wasn't just another scene. All 4 cast members had unfinished tension from earlier episodes, stuff that had either been scratched from the cut or left unresolved on purpose. It was designed to be wrapped today, in one big group sit-down. Producers called it a healing conversation. Cast was told it would help close narrative loops, bring clarity to out-of-sync dynamics, and let everyone open up so they could move forward. They called it closure, but it felt more like an explosion waiting to happen. And still, it wasn't over. From the second Elizabeth entered the set space, her energy was off. Her posture was short, tense. Her arms were crossed even before the first question was asked. She avoided eye contact with Loren entirely. Andrei walked in right behind her but didn't greet anyone. Not the crew, not Alexei. He went straight to his seat, jaw visibly clenched. On the other side, Loren and Alexei arrived nearly 10 minutes later than scheduled. Loren looked red-eyed, lips tight. Alexei didn't speak. No casual banter, no soft jokes, just silence. A producer started things off with a basic prompt, something rehearsed. Let's talk about where communication broke down this season. But that's all it took. One sentence. Andrei turned his body slightly toward Alexei and said, point blank, "You act like you're the only one who's been through pressure." Alexei looked up slowly. His voice was low, steady, but defensive. "That's not what I said." "No, that's how you make it look," Andrei shot back immediately. "Every episode. Poor Alexei." Loren shifted, immediately murmured something under her breath, and Alexei glanced toward her, briefly, then back to Andrei. His tone tightened. "You want to talk about performance? You're the one yelling at everyone every week. Half of that is for the cameras." Elizabeth snapped her head toward Loren. "Oh, please. And you crying like it's your job? Are we supposed to believe your breakdowns are real this time?" Loren dropped her gaze. No words, just a sharp inhale. Her nails dug into her hands, which were clasped in her lap, and still, it wasn't over. The tension in the room didn't just rise. It flipped. The air got heavy. The camera crew started subtly repositioning to keep everyone in the frame because no one was following set cues anymore. Blocking was ignored. Elizabeth leaned forward now, voice rising. "You want sympathy? Fine. But maybe stop using every moment to make it about you." That did it. Loren broke. She let out a small choking noise, like she was trying to keep it down, but the tears pushed through like a dam snapping. "I'm tired. All of you treat me like I'm nothing." Alexei stood up halfway, tried to reach behind her chair, saying her name gently. But Andrei didn't wait. "She's tired? She's tired?" His voice hit hard, deeper now. "We've carried this show on our backs." "No," Alexei said, suddenly standing to full height. "You've carried drama, not quality." Elizabeth popped out of her seat so hard the mic pinned under her shirt yanked sideways. Her voice was louder now, almost cracking under it. "He works harder than any cast member here. You think being quiet makes you superior?" And still. It wasn't over. One of the assistant producers tried to cut in off camera. Hands raised slightly, she tried to diffuse the energy, prompting a reset with a gentle, "Let's circle back." But her words were bulldozed by Andrei stepping forward. "Say it again!" he spit at Alexei. Alexei didn't move, but his eyes went fixed. His voice was flat. "You're a bully. You have been for years." That tore it. Elizabeth rounded the table, physically trying to get between the two. Loren, shaking now, stood up but seemed disoriented. She stopped in place, eyes wide, chest rising and falling fast. A producer snapped their fingers at security across the room. One camera tilted awkwardly. A mic crackled directly into the live line. Crew started talking into headsets. Command Central had eyes on everything, and no one was cutting off yet. They wanted to see if it would calm. It didn't. And still, it wasn't over. Furniture shifted. A stool scraped across the floor as Andrei's foot caught it when he jerked forward. Elizabeth was still trying to hold him back, simultaneously yelling at the producers that this was their fault. "You wanted this. You wanted fireworks, so here it is." Alexei kept his ground. He squared his stance, refused to sit back down. Loren's crying got louder now, cracked into screaming. It was the kind that bypasses embarrassment, dignity, social filters, an open, wounded sound. She was hysterical, shouting that no one ever defended her, each word louder than the last. Her mic was still on. Everyone heard it. Alexei reached for her but didn't turn his back on Andrei. The two men were now less than 3 feet apart, the space between them carved only by Elizabeth's hand, still trying to pull her husband back. A boom arm snapped into a nearby light. One of the audio mixers cursed under his breath. A lighting rig vibrated after an accidental bump. Security pushed inward. Seconds later, they stepped directly between Alexei and Andrei. And still, it wasn't over. A producer yelled for a hard cut. Everyone froze for a second that felt like a full minute. Elizabeth refused to step back. Loren was now sitting on the floor, knees up, crying into her hands. Security managers split the couples, with 2 separating Andrei from Alexei and 2 more guiding Loren away. Alexei didn't leave. He just stood there, watching. Quiet now, breathing shallow. When he did finally leave the room, it was on his own, refusing any help. The hallway cameras reportedly stayed off. That footage? We'll never see it. What came after was chaos on another level. Not show chaos, not entertainment chaos. Actual production chaos. Crew was reallocated within hours. Multiple team members asked to be reassigned. The storyboards for the next 3 filming days were canceled. Production called an executive lock-in. The final call came fast. TLC watched everything and made the decision unanimously. The season would continue, but Loren, Alexei, Libby, and Andrei would not. And still, it wasn't over. As soon as episode 23 aired, cut down, diluted, eerily restrained, something felt off. Viewers didn't say it, they screamed it. Reddit threads flooded with speculation within the first hour. TikTok creators hit record on their reactions before the credits even rolled. Twitter was a full-blown crime scene, with fans dissecting every pause, every odd edit, every mismatched audio line like forensic analysts with popcorn. What stood out most wasn't what the episode showed, it was what it didn't. Camera cuts came too fast, emotional beats landed without buildup, and the absence of any post-conflict resolution was deafening. These were longtime mainstays of the franchise, suddenly cut off from the narrative without warning. No explanation. Just silence. The audience has watched 90 Day Fiancé long enough to know the structure. Scripts don't glitch like this unless something's been scrubbed. Fan theories exploded by midnight. Some claimed the cast walked off set mid-filming, and TLC was scrambling to fill in blanks. Others swore they spotted background movement between cuts, blurred figures that looked like security, or off-camera crew stepping too close. Still others pointed out the timeline gaps. One scene had Elizabeth in a gray top. 2 minutes later, in the same supposed confrontation, she's suddenly in a dark blue one. Back and forth, 2-colored chaos, impossible continuity. And still, it wasn't over. Within a day, TikTok micro-episodes were spinning their own fiction. Fans posted stitching clips of Loren's last confessional and slowing down playback, trying to read her lips when the audio dropped. Others re-uploaded deleted Instagram stories from Elizabeth that had disappeared hours before the episode. One popular account posted a side-by-side from the series trailer, splicing in promo shots of scenes that never actually aired. A dinner scene that was teased, gone. Andrei, in an outdoor argument, vanished. A confessional snippet where Loren says, "I'm not doing this anymore," wiped. The frustration wasn't coming from a need for drama. It was from betrayal. Fans weren't confused, they were insulted. For 9 seasons, TLC presented this series as chaotic, sure, but transparent. Now, something was being hidden, and nobody likes being lied to by a show they've spent years investing in emotionally. Then came the leak threats. Allegedly, Elizabeth reached out to a former production assistant about clearing the air on social media. Not naming names, not violating details, just telling her side of the story, in her words. Andrei was reportedly all in, furious that TLC, which he said used him for fire value, could strip away years of work and silence him without consequence. He hinted to other contacts that he might go live unfiltered. Whether it was Instagram, YouTube, or even a podcast appearance, the risk wasn't nothing. It was nuclear. Behind the scenes, legal teams moved fast. Within 48 hours of episode 23 hitting the airwaves, both couples were sent updated reinforcement clauses tied to their emergency NDAs. No contact with press, no public statement, No hinting on socials, even vague captions were flagged. TLC even preemptively reached out to podcast hosts who had worked with former cast members, warning about breach exposure. Quietly, the network prepared its damage control for something it hadn't faced before, being outed by its own people in real time. And still, it wasn't over. Instagram tensions surfaced fast. Elizabeth began subtly liking tweets that referenced telling the real story and reposted a quote about snakes in the grass. Loren went radio silent. Not a story, not a picture of her kids, nothing. Meanwhile, fan pages split into two camps: those who believed the episode had been censored to protect cast members, and those who were convinced it was all a desperate PR move to control narrative backlash. The truth? Somewhere in between. According to crew members close to the editing bay, the footage that got locked away didn't just make the cast look bad, it made the production look worse. Andrei closing space on Alexei too quickly. Security late to step in. Multiple crew members standing only feet away as emotional breakdowns hit, and not one interjection from producers during the peak. Leaving that footage in would have confirmed what some fans had suspected for years, that silence from behind the cameras is sometimes louder than what's on screen. Then came a twist no one expected. A short-lived, unverified clip began circulating. Just 2 seconds long, blurry, low res. It showed a paused moment that several online claimed contained a boom mic swinging wildly overhead while someone screamed off camera. The clip vanished fast, removed from Reddit, flatlined on TikTok. Some said copyright, others said something bigger. It was never verified. But once people thought they'd seen it, they couldn't unsee what had been hinted. And still, it wasn't over. Subreddits swelled with side-by-side timelines. Fans built entire speculative spreadsheets tracking who unfollowed who on Instagram. One noticed Loren's sister had reportedly removed all tags tied to Season 9. Another pointed out that Alexei hadn't posted since the mid-season air date, a first since the twins were born. Within the fandom, a cold war sparked. People defended Elizabeth, citing production's history of provocation. Others turned on Andrei, blaming his escalating behavior over the years. But most agreed, TLC wasn't guiding the story anymore. They were running from it. In the background of this digital war, current cast members stayed quiet. Too quiet. No one addressed the missing four, no one commented on the sudden shift in footage. No inside jokes, no reposted meme moments. For a franchise that taught its stars to ride reality with humor, no one was taking swings. It wasn't loyalty, it was fear. Every loose thread, every hint of truth, every piece of footage suppressed had now turned into ammo, not for a lawsuit, but for something much worse in the age of social obsession, a loss of trust. TLC isn't just protecting its own reputation anymore, it's protecting an illusion, one that was sold to viewers as authentic, raw, maybe messy, but still real. After this, reality itself is in question, and yet, the real explosion may still be coming. What happened to Loren, Alexei, Elizabeth, and Andrei didn't just shake the table, they were the table. For years, these couples anchored the storyline, set the emotional tone, pulled the audience back even when newer seasons wobbled. So when they vanished mid-season without ceremony or closure, it wasn't just a cast shakeup. It was a crack down the center of the franchise, and everyone else still standing felt it. The remaining couples, whether still filming or silently watching from the sidelines, aren't just continuing their stories. They're walking through the fallout. Post-production teams rescheduled confessionals, security protocol got tightened. Scenes that once encouraged open-ended conflict are now being coached with language like, let's keep it calm, or don't escalate too far. No one's saying it on camera, but they're all thinking it. This show doesn't protect you once your storyline runs out. And still, that's not the full truth, because protection was never guaranteed in the first place. What's happening here is bigger than contracts getting canceled, bigger than one fight gone sideways. This cast collapse is what happens when a show built on personal exposure forgets the cost of being too visible, too vulnerable, for too long. 4 people didn't just burn out, they were consumed, sacrificed at the pace of production, and even if viewers didn't see the explosion, they felt the silence it left behind. So now comes the harder question. Who's responsible? Was it Andrei, always pushing buttons until one finally blew? Was it Elizabeth, deflecting with defiance and simmering frustration? Was it Alexei, tired of carrying calm on command? Or Loren, whose emotions once made her relatable but eventually made her a target? Or maybe it wasn't them at all. Maybe the real responsibility sits higher, in boardrooms, in edit suites, in the choices to prioritize chaos over care. Just one more fight, just one more mic'd meltdown. There's blame to go around, sure, but accountability? That's murkier, because the truth is, reality TV doesn't break people all at once. It chips away, with withheld context, with endless retakes, with online pressure weaponized through fan reaction and rating spreadsheets, and eventually, something gives out. And this time, it wasn't just tension in a scene, it was trust in the system. But don't mistake silence for stillness. Behind all the edits, repackaged episodes, and smiling cutaways, something uncomfortable is growing. A quiet understanding between audience and cast, one that whispers, this isn't entertainment anymore, it's survival. And as the season limps toward its delayed finish, eyes are already turning elsewhere. Because even as viewers grieve what's lost, they see it starting again. Somewhere else. Another couple showing strange tension in their confessionals, a pause too long during a confrontation. Less laughter, more glancing off camera, because another couple is already showing the same pressure cracks, and this time, there's no going back.